The small house at the edge of town looked ordinary, but inside, something extraordinary was taking shape. Maya Rodriguez wasn't like other kids. While most children her age played with dolls or video games, she was learning lessons that would change her life forever. Her hometown of Esperanza sat right on the border, a place where dust mixed with dreams and hope battled against hard realities. The Rodriguez family wasn't rich, but they were strong. Maya's father worked long hours at the local factory, and her mother cleaned houses in the nearby suburbs. But it was her grandfather who truly shaped her world. Ernesto Rodriguez wasn't just an old man. He was a veteran, a warrior who had seen more of the world than anyone else in their small community. His weathered hands told stories of battles fought, of challenges overcome. When he spoke, people listened. And Maya, she listened more carefully than anyone else. Every Saturday morning, while other kids watched cartoons, Maya would sit on the worn leather chair next to her grandfather. The chair had a permanent dent from years of his sitting, telling stories that most people would never hear. Ernesto didn't just tell stories. He taught lessons about life, survival, and what it means to be truly brave. Bravery isn't about being fearless, he would say, his eyes looking far beyond the small living room. It's about doing what's right, even when you're scared. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves. Maya absorbed these words like a sponge. She was different from other girls her age. While they worried about makeup and school dances, she was learning how to read maps, understand basic survival skills, and more importantly, understand the world around her. Her grandfather would show her old photographs from his time in the military, faded images of young soldiers, some smiling, some serious, all looking like they carried the weight of the world on their shoulders. Maya would trace her fingers over these pictures, imagining the stories behind each face. The neighborhood where they lived wasn't fancy. It was a mix of working-class families, each fighting their own battles. Some struggled with money, others with hope. But Maya saw something different. She saw potential. She saw strength in the way people helped each other, in the way communities came together when things got tough. Her school wasn't special. It was a regular public school where most kids just wanted to get through the day. But Maya was different. She paid attention. She asked questions. Her teachers noticed something unique about her, a fire, a determination that set her apart from other students. Physical education was where Maya truly shined. While other girls complained about running or doing push-ups, she saw it as a challenge. She pushed herself harder than anyone else. Her body was becoming strong, but her mind was becoming even stronger. At home, she would practice what her grandfather taught her. She learned to be quiet, to observe, to think before acting. These weren't just military skills. These were life skills. Her mother would sometimes look at her, a mix of worry and pride in her eyes. She knew her daughter was special. Nights were often spent listening to her grandfather's stories. Tales of soldiers who showed courage, of moments that defined humanity, of choices that changed everything. Maya would sit there, her young mind creating vivid pictures of these stories, understanding that life was about more than just existing. It was about making a difference. Her bedroom reflected her unique spirit. While other girls had posters of pop stars, Maya had maps, books about history, and a small collection of survival gear her grandfather had gifted her over the years. Each item told a story. Each item was a lesson waiting to be learned. As she grew, Maya knew she was different. She didn't fit into the typical mold that society expected of a young girl. She was preparing for something bigger, something more important. And her grandfather's lessons were laying the groundwork for a journey that would take her far beyond the small town of Esperanza. Little did anyone know, Maya Rodriguez was preparing for a path that would transform her from a curious young girl into a warrior who would be feared in battle and later face an entirely different kind of challenge. The high school hallway buzzed with normal teenage noise. Backpacks slammed into lockers, friends laughed, and whispers about weekend plans filled the air. But Maya Rodriguez stood apart, her eyes fixed on the recruitment poster that seemed to call out to her. It was a typical Tuesday morning when the military recruiters arrived. Most students saw them as a distraction, a break from boring classes. Some guys tried to look tough, hoping to impress their friends. Girls mostly ignored them, talking about their weekend plans or upcoming tests. Maya was different. She watched carefully as the recruiters set up their booth. Clean-cut soldiers in crisp uniforms, showing slides about military life, opportunity, and service. While other students saw just another presentation, Maya saw a door opening to something bigger than herself. Her classmates had dreams, but those dreams felt small to her. Some wanted to go to local colleges. Others planned to work in family businesses. A few talked about getting out of their small town. But Maya saw something more, a chance to make a real difference. During lunch, she approached the recruitment table. Her hands were steady, her eyes clear and determined. The recruiter, a tall woman with years of experience, noticed Maya immediately. She wasn't like the other students who came by just to get free pens or take a brochure. "What can I do for you?" the recruiter asked. Maya's response was simple but powerful. "I want to serve," she said. No extra words, no unnecessary explanations, just a clear statement of purpose. The recruiter looked surprised. Most teenagers who approached the table were looking for quick answers or easy solutions. Maya was different. She asked serious questions about training, about roles, about what real service meant. At home, the conversation would be anything but simple. Her mother, Rosa, had different dreams for her daughter. She wanted Maya to go to college, to have a safe life, to follow a path that seemed more traditional. Her father, working long hours at the factory, remained quiet but worried. But her grandfather, Ernesto, understood. When Maya shared her plans that evening, he saw something in her eyes that reminded him of himself years ago. A fire, a purpose, a calling that went beyond personal comfort. "The military isn't just a job," Ernesto told her, his voice soft but strong. "It's a commitment. It's about protecting people who can't protect themselves. It's about being part of something bigger than yourself." Maya's decision wasn't about adventure or escaping her small town. It was about purpose, about making a real difference. Her grandfather's stories had shown her that true strength wasn't about being the strongest or the fastest. It was about character, about discipline, about serving others. Her friends were shocked. Some laughed, thinking she was joking. Others tried to talk her out of it. "You're going to miss parties," one friend said. "What about college?" another asked. But Maya had already made up her mind. The night before she was set to take her initial military tests, Maya packed carefully. She didn't pack like someone going on a trip. She packed like someone starting a mission. Her grandfather's old map, a small notebook, a picture of her family. These were her most important items. Her mother cried that night. Not tears of pride, but tears of worry. Mothers always worry, but Maya was calm. She knew this was her path. She knew this was what she was meant to do. When the morning came, Maya walked out of her house different. She wasn't just a high school student anymore. She was becoming something more. A protector, a defender, a soldier. The unexpected call wasn't from a phone. It was a call from inside her heart. A call to serve. A call to be something more than anyone expected her to be. The training ground looked like something from another world. Endless rows of green tents, mud-covered obstacles, and the sound of boots hitting the ground with perfect rhythm. Maya Rodriguez was about to discover what she was truly made of. Day one of basic training hit her like a wall of reality. This was nothing like she had imagined. The comfortable life she knew was gone. Here, every second counted. Every move mattered. The drill sergeants were not teachers. They were sculptors, ready to break down everything she thought she knew and rebuild her into something stronger. Her first morning started at 4:30 a.m. While the rest of the world slept, Maya and her fellow recruits were already moving. The cold morning air bit at their skin. Breath came out in small clouds. Muscles that never worked this hard before screamed in protest. Sergeant Martinez was a legend, tough as steel, with eyes that could see right through any excuse. When he looked at Maya, she didn't see judgment. She saw a challenge, a test, and Maya was determined to pass. Physical training was brutal. Push-ups that seemed endless. Running with heavy backpacks that felt like they were carrying the weight of the world. Some recruits broke down. Some cried. Some gave up. But not Maya. Each time her body wanted to stop, her mind pushed harder. "Pain is just weakness leaving the body," Sergeant Martinez would shout. Maya took those words and made them her motto. Her background made her different from other recruits. While many came from cities or suburbs, Maya's border town upbringing and her grandfather's lessons gave her an edge. She understood discipline before most kids understood responsibility. Survival wasn't new to her. It was a way of life she had learned years ago. Weapons training became her unexpected talent. Where others struggled to understand the mechanics of rifles and equipment, Maya's hands moved with a natural grace. She could assemble and disassemble her weapon faster than anyone in her unit. Her accuracy during shooting practice left even the instructors impressed. But it wasn't just about physical strength. Military training was a mental game. Strategy, quick thinking, understanding complex situations in seconds. These were the real tests. Maya learned to read maps like they were stories. She understood that every line, every mark could mean the difference between life and death. Night training was where she truly shined. While others struggled to see in the darkness, Maya moved like a shadow. Her grandfather's lessons about patience and observation came alive. She could stay still for hours, watching, waiting, understanding the landscape around her. Her fellow recruits started to notice. At first, they saw her as just another recruit, but slowly they began to respect her. She wasn't the strongest. She wasn't the biggest, but she was the most determined. When others wanted to quit, Maya pushed forward. Team exercises revealed her true strength. Leadership wasn't about shouting orders. It was about understanding people. Maya could read her teammates. She knew when someone was struggling. She knew how to motivate without breaking spirits. Her squad became more than just a group of soldiers. They became a family. Sergeant Martinez watched her transformation. In one of their rare personal moments, he told her, "Rodriguez, you're not just becoming a soldier. You're becoming a protector." Those words meant everything to Maya. This wasn't just a job. This wasn't just a career path. This was a calling. Every challenge, every difficult moment was preparing her for something bigger than herself. By the end of basic training, Maya was unrecognizable from the girl who had walked in weeks ago. Her body was stronger. Her mind was sharper. But more importantly, her spirit was unbreakable. The silent guardian was born, and her real journey was just beginning. The desert stretched out like an endless sea of sand and heat. Maya Rodriguez adjusted her helmet, her eyes scanning the horizon. This was nothing like training. This was real. This was life and death. Her unit had been deployed to a hot spot where tension lived in every shadow. The air felt heavy with danger. Sounds that used to be normal. A car passing, a door closing, now meant something different. Each noise could be a threat. Each movement could be the difference between life and death. Maya wasn't just a soldier anymore. She was a protector. Her job wasn't just about fighting. It was about keeping her team safe, about protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. The lessons her grandfather taught her years ago now made perfect sense. Their mission seemed simple on paper, but nothing in a combat zone is ever simple. They were to help secure a small village, provide support, and ensure safety for local civilians. But war has its own rules, its own language. On their third day, everything changed. A sudden explosion rocked their convoy. The world became a blur of dust, sound, and chaos. Maya's training kicked in immediately. While others might have panicked, she was calm. Her mind was clear. Her actions were quick. "Rodriguez, cover the left," her team leader shouted. And she did. Her movements were precise. Her shooting was accurate. She wasn't just defending herself. She was defending her team, her brothers and sisters in arms. Between the gunfire and the dust, Maya saw something that would change everything. A group of children, lost and scared, hiding behind a broken wall. In that moment, she wasn't just a soldier. She was a protector. Using hand signals, she communicated with her team. They understood. Some provided cover. Others helped move the children to safety. Maya's leadership wasn't about being the strongest. It was about being the smartest, about seeing what others missed. Hours felt like days. The heat was brutal. Their water was running low. Equipment was heavy. But they kept going. Maya remembered her grandfather's words. Strength isn't about how much you can carry. It's about how far you can go when everything tells you to stop. Night brought its own challenges. Darkness in a combat zone isn't peaceful. It's alive. It moves. It whispers. Maya's night vision was better than most. Her ability to stay calm, to read the landscape, kept her team safe. They rescued more than just those children that day. They brought hope to a village that had seen too much pain. Maya understood something important. War isn't just about fighting. It's about healing, about showing people that they're not alone. Her team started calling her the Silent Guardian, not because she was quiet, but because she saw things others missed. She protected in ways that went beyond bullets and weapons. One evening, during a rare moment of calm, her team leader approached her. Rodriguez, he said, "You're different. You're not just fighting a war. You're fighting for something bigger." Maya knew he was right. This wasn't about countries or borders. This was about people, about hope, about making a difference in the smallest, most important ways. As the sun set on another challenging day, Maya looked at her team. They weren't just soldiers. They were a family. And she would do everything to keep them safe. The combat zone had changed her, but it hadn't broken her. If anything, it had made her stronger, more determined, more alive. The airport looked the same, but everything felt different. Maya Rodriguez stepped off the plane, her military bag hanging from her shoulder. She was home, but home didn't feel like home anymore. Her family waited with big smiles and open arms. Balloons, a welcome home sign, the kind of scene people see in movies. But Maya knew movies never show the real story. The story behind the smile. The story inside a soldier's heart. Her mother hugged her tight, tears falling freely. Her father stood strong, pride and worry mixing in his eyes. Her grandfather, the man who had shaped her journey, watched her with a look that said more than words ever could. The first days were strange. Civilian life felt like a different planet. People worried about things that seemed so small now. A missed coffee order, a bad hair day, traffic jams. Maya had seen real problems, life and death problems. How could she explain that? Nights were the hardest. While everyone slept peacefully, Maya's mind was still on alert. Every small sound could be a threat. Her body was home, but her mind was still in the combat zone. Some nights, she would wake up covered in sweat, her hands already moving like she was holding a weapon. Her grandfather understood best. He would sit with her during those difficult moments. No words needed, just presence, just understanding. War doesn't end when you come home, Ernesto told her one evening. The real battle begins here. He pointed to her heart, to her mind. Maya tried to fit back into normal life. She enrolled in college, thinking education would help her transition. But classrooms were different from battlefields. Her classmates talked about parties and social media. She had stories about saving lives, about protecting people in the worst conditions possible. Sometimes, people would ask about her time in the military, but they didn't really want to know. They wanted a quick story, a simple answer. Maya knew war wasn't simple. It wasn't a movie plot. It was real. It was messy. It changed people. Her medal stayed in a small box, her grandfather's old wooden box. She didn't need to show them to anyone. She knew what she had done. She knew the lives she had saved. Post-traumatic stress wasn't something people could see. It wasn't like a physical wound. It lived inside. It whispered. It reminded her of moments she wanted to forget. Moments of fear, moments of loss, moments that marked her forever. But Maya was strong. She had learned that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about healing, about moving forward, about finding purpose beyond the pain. Her military friends understood best. They would meet sometimes, sharing stories. Not the heroic stories people wanted to hear, the real stories, the human stories, the stories that showed what really happens when young people are asked to do impossible things. At college, she felt like a stranger. Young students talked about their dreams. Maya had lived dreams, had survived nightmares. How could she explain that? Her counselor suggested she join a veterans support group. There, she found her tribe. People who understood. People who had walked similar paths. People who knew that coming home was its own kind of battle. Maya Rodriguez was home. But home was now a journey, a process of healing, of understanding, of becoming something new. The war had changed her, but it hadn't defeated her. If anything, it had made her stronger, more human, more understanding of the world's complexity. Her real mission was just beginning. The college classroom felt like a different kind of war zone. Maya Rodriguez sat in the back, her notebook open, her mind 1,000 miles away from the lecture about marketing strategies. She was used to life or death situations. Now she was supposed to care about business presentations. Her classmates looked so young, so innocent. They worried about relationship drama and social media likes. Maya had carried wounded teammates. She had protected children in war zones. These classroom challenges seemed almost funny if they weren't so frustrating. Professor Jenkins was talking about teamwork. Maya wanted to laugh. She knew real teamwork. The kind where your life depended on the person next to you. Not the kind where students worried about who would do the least work on a group project. During group discussions, Maya stayed quiet most of the time. Not because she didn't have opinions. She had plenty. But she knew how to listen, how to observe. Years of military training had taught her that sometimes silence is more powerful than words. Her fellow students didn't know what to make of her. She was older, different. When she spoke, her words carried weight. Her experiences were real. Not textbook theories, but lived truth. One day, during a class debate about global economics, Maya shared a story. It wasn't a long story, just a simple account of how she had seen economic challenges impact real people in war-torn areas. The classroom went silent. Her classmates looked at her differently. Studying wasn't easy. Her military training had taught her discipline, but academic writing was a different skill. Research papers felt like a new language. Where she was used to clear, direct communication, academic writing was full of complex words and indirect meanings. Some professors didn't understand her. They saw a veteran and assumed certain things. But Maya was more than her military service. She was a student, a learner, someone hungry for knowledge. Her veteran support group became her lifeline. Other veterans understood her struggles. They shared tips about studying, about managing stress, about finding a place in this new world of education. Math was easy for her. Strategy was in her blood. Numbers made sense. They were logical. Unlike the complicated social dynamics of college life, she could solve complex problems quickly, a skill learned from years of military training. Writing papers was hard, not because she couldn't think, but because academic writing felt so different from the clear, direct communication she was used to. She learned to translate her experiences into academic language. Some days were harder than others. A loud noise in the hallway could trigger memories. A discussion about global politics could bring back difficult moments. But Maya was learning to manage, to breathe, to stay present. Her grandfather's advice kept her going. Every new challenge is just another mission, he would say. And he was right. College was her new mission, her new way of serving. She didn't want special treatment. She wanted to learn, to grow, to understand the world in new ways. Her military experience wasn't a limitation. It was a strength. Slowly, her classmates began to see her differently, not just as a veteran, but as a classmate, a teammate, someone with unique insights and experiences. Maya Rodriguez was fighting a different kind of battle now, not with weapons, but with knowledge, with understanding, with her determination to grow and learn. The classroom was her new battlefield, and she was ready to conquer it. The night was always the hardest. Maya Rodriguez would sit by her window, watching the streetlights flicker, her mind a battlefield of memories. The war had ended, but the war inside her head was still raging. Post-traumatic stress wasn't something you could see. It wasn't a cut or a bruise. It was a silent monster that lived inside her. Some days it was quiet. Other days it roared so loud she could barely breathe. Nightmares were her unwelcome companions. One moment she'd be sleeping. The next she'd be back in the combat zone. The sounds, the smells, the fear, it all came rushing back. She'd wake up covered in sweat, her hands shaking, her heart racing like she was still in danger. Her family tried to understand. But how could they? How could anyone who hadn't been there truly know what it was like? Her mother would hold her during these moments. Her father would sit quietly, his own pain of not being able to help written on his face. Therapy was hard, not because she didn't want to get better, but because talking about her experiences meant reliving them. Each session was like opening an old wound. The therapist was kind, patient, but kindness couldn't erase the memories. "It's okay to not be okay," her therapist would say. But Maya had been trained to be strong, to push through. Admitting weakness wasn't in her nature. Her veteran support group became her lifeline. These were people who understood, who had walked similar paths. They didn't need long explanations. A look was enough. A shared silence spoke volumes. Some days, the smallest things could trigger a memory. A car backfiring, a sudden loud noise, a news report about conflict. Her body would go into alert mode, fight or flight, always ready, always watching. Work was a challenge. Civilian jobs felt strange after military precision. People worried about small things, deadlines, office politics. Maya had watched friends die, had saved children in war zones. How could she care about a missed email? Her grandfather was her anchor. He was a veteran too. He understood the invisible wounds of war. "The battle doesn't end when you come home," he would tell her. "It just changes." Medication helped, but it wasn't a magic solution. Some days were better than others. Some days she felt like herself. Other days she felt like a stranger in her own body. Relationships were complicated. How do you explain to someone that sometimes you might need space? That some nights the memories are too loud? That trust is something earned, not given. She tried dating, but it was hard. How do you explain your past? How do you let someone in when parts of you are still fighting an old war? Her military training had taught her survival, but survival in civilian life was different. It wasn't about dodging bullets. It was about managing emotions, about finding peace, about healing. Slowly, she learned coping mechanisms: meditation, deep breathing, writing. Her journal became her closest friend, a place where she could be honest, where she could admit her struggles without judgment. Her resilience was her greatest strength. She wasn't broken. She was healing. Each day was a battle, but she was winning. Slowly, surely. Maya Rodriguez was more than her trauma. She was a survivor, a warrior, not just on the battlefield, but in life. The invisible wounds were healing, and she was becoming whole again. The classroom fell silent when Maya Rodriguez spoke. It wasn't just her words that captured attention. It was the strength behind them, the experience, the truth that came from living, not just reading. She had spent years being quiet, watching, listening. Now she was learning to speak, to share, to make her experiences mean something more than just memories. It started small. A class discussion about global conflicts, while other students talked about theories. Maya shared real stories, stories of people, of children caught in war zones, of soldiers who were more than just uniforms and weapons, of humanity that existed beyond headlines. Her professor noticed first. Mr. Thompson wasn't just an instructor. He was someone who understood that real learning came from real experiences. Rodriguez, he said after class one day, "You have a story that needs to be heard." At first, Maya was hesitant. She wasn't used to being in the spotlight. In the military, she had been part of a team. Her job was to protect, to support, not to stand alone and speak. But something was changing. Her veteran support group encouraged her. "Your voice matters," they would say. And slowly, she began to believe them. She started small. A presentation about veterans' experiences. Not a heroic story. Not a sad story. Just a human story. About people who serve. About the real cost of war. About healing and hope. Her classmates listened differently now. No more side conversations. No more checking phones. They were truly hearing her, understanding that war wasn't just something in movies or news reports. It was real. It happened to real people. Community events became her new platform. She spoke at local schools, at veteran centers, at community colleges. Her message was simple. War changes you, but it doesn't define you. You can heal. You can grow. You can become something more. Writing became her other tool. She started a blog, not a military blog, a human blog, about transition, about finding yourself after experiencing something life-changing, about the journey of healing. Her grandfather watched her transformation with pride. "You're doing what I always hoped," he told her. "You're turning your experiences into something that helps others." Public speaking was hard at first. Her hands would shake. Memories would rush back. But she learned to breathe, to center herself, to turn those challenging memories into powerful words. Universities started inviting her to speak, not just about military experiences, but about leadership, about resilience, about finding strength in the most difficult moments. She wasn't just speaking about her past. She was creating a bridge, helping civilians understand military experiences, helping veterans feel understood, showing that healing is possible. Her blog grew. Her speaking invitations increased. But Maya wasn't chasing fame. She was chasing understanding, connection, a way to make sure the stories of soldiers weren't forgotten. Other veterans reached out. They saw themselves in her words, her honesty, her vulnerability. She was showing that being strong doesn't mean never being broken. It means having the courage to heal. Slowly, Maya Rodriguez was finding her voice. Not the voice of a soldier, not the voice of a victim, but the voice of a human being who had experienced something extraordinary and was choosing to turn that experience into hope. Her grandfather's words echoed in her mind. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow. And she was growing, becoming more than her past, becoming a storyteller, a bridge between worlds. Maya was no longer just surviving. She was thriving. And her voice was becoming a beacon of hope for others. The stage wasn't a battlefield, but Maya Rodriguez stood on it like a soldier. Her final semester presentation was more than just an academic requirement. It was a mission, a chance to bridge worlds. Her journey had been long. From a small border town, through military service, through pain, through healing, and now to this moment, a moment of transformation. Maya looked out at the audience, her classmates, her professors, her family sitting in the back, her veteran support group. Each face told a story. Each person represented a part of her journey. Her presentation wasn't about getting a perfect grade. It was about something bigger, about understanding, about showing that experiences shape us, but they don't limit us. She spoke about her military service, but not like a hero, like a human being. She talked about the real moments, the difficult moments, the moments of unexpected kindness, the moments that showed humanity exists in the hardest places. Her grandfather sat in the audience. tears in his eyes. Ernesto Rodriguez saw more than just his granddaughter speaking. He saw a legacy, a continuation of service, a different kind of battle. Maya shared stories about her team, about the children they helped in war zones, about the moments that weren't in news reports, the quiet moments of human connection, the times when soldiers were more than just fighters, when they were helpers, protectors. Her classmates listened differently now. No more phones, no more distracted looks. They were hearing a real story, a human story, a story that went beyond textbooks and theories. Professor Thompson washed with pride. He had seen Maya's journey. From a quiet veteran student to a powerful communicator, she wasn't just learning. She was teaching. Her presentation connected dots that seemed impossible to connect. Military experience, global understanding, human compassion, personal growth. These weren't separate things. They were connected. She talked about transition, about healing, about finding purpose after experiencing something life-changing. Her words weren't just about her. They were about every veteran, every person who had faced challenges. The room was silent when she finished. Not the silence of boredom, but the silence of understanding, of being touched by a real story. When the applause came, it wasn't just clapping. It was recognition of her journey, of her strength, of her ability to turn pain into purpose. Her family rushed to hug her after the presentation. Her mother cried. Her father stood proud. Her grandfather touched her face, his eyes full of love and understanding. "You're not just my granddaughter," Ernesto whispered. "You're a bridge between worlds, between experiences." Maya had found her new mission, not on a battlefield, but in understanding, in communication, in helping people see beyond their own experiences, in showing that healing is possible, that growth is a choice. Her military training hadn't ended. It had transformed. She was still a protector, still a guardian. But now, her weapons were words. Her battlefield was understanding. Her mission was connection. As she stood there, surrounded by love and support, Maya Rodriguez knew something important. Life isn't about the challenges we face. It's about how we grow from them, how we turn our experiences into hope. Her journey wasn't over. It was just beginning.